Marine accidents can be some of the costliest disasters out there, not just to a company's wallet, but potentially to their captain and crew's lives. That being said, we're diving into the 15 biggest ship collisions and mistakes caught on camera. Number 15. Captain Down. A Russian cargo ship was sailing under the direction of an inebriated captain when it smashed into a major highway bridge near the port of Busan, South Korea, during afternoon rush hour on Thursday. Video footage caught the vessel being severely damaged by the crash, which tore a hole in the bridge's steel structure. The vessel was later detained by the Korea Coast Guard after it fled the scene. The 370-foot ship, known as Sea Grand, had arrived in Busan on Wednesday and set out for its home port of Vladivostok, Russia, carrying nearly 3 million pounds of steel coils when the accident occurred. The map shows it should have sailed north along the coast before making its way across the eastern edge of the Sea of Japan. Instead, it traveled just a couple miles before it inexplicably turned into a small bay and headed straight for the Gwangan Bridge, a double-deck structure that stands as the second longest span in the country. KCG officials tracking regular ship traffic saw the deviation and radioed the ship to turn around, but the captain appeared to neither speak nor understand English well enough to respond. Number 14. Chinese activists. Tensions have always run high in the East China Sea. The highly contested waterways have been disputed amongst varying nations for years. Back in 2012, 14 Chinese activists brought their Hong Kong vessel into Japanese waters to protest. Quickly, they were surrounded by Japanese Coast Guard. The boat wouldn't stop, and the Coast Guard was forced to take further action. They decided to take 2 Coast Guard boats and get along either side of the protester ship. They ended up pinning the ship between each of their own vessels before finally forcing the protesters to surrender. All 14 activists were quickly arrested. Number 13. MSC Opera. Back in 2015, the MSC Opera cruise ship crashed into a tourist boat and then into a dock in Venice, Italy, after an engine failure. Videos posted across social media showed passengers escaping from the tourist boat and running down the dock as the cruise ship rapidly approached. The 13-deck MSC Opera rammed into the dock with its horns blaring, injuring 5 tourists. 2 tugboats tried to guide the cruise ship but were unable to prevent it from crashing. The MSC Opera can carry more than 2,675 passengers, and according to its sailing schedule, the ship left Venice on May 26th and traveled to Kotor, Montenegro, and Mykonos, Santorini, and Corfu in Greece before returning to Venice. The incident comes amongst a spree of other ship collisions to happen around the Italian cruise ship industry. Number 12. Vita Spirit. The Maltese-flagged Vita Spirit, a 740-foot vessel, was en route from Russia to Saudi Arabia when the crash occurred. The Vita Spirit crew and captain claimed that they had dropped the anchor, but soon found that it was incorrectly done, and they continued to drift. The Vita Spirit had rammed into the historical Hikambasi Salih Effendi mansion on April 7, 2018. Luckily, there were no permanent residents in the building at the time of the incident. No casualties were caused by the collision, but the wooden mansion, built by Ottoman nobles in the 18th century, was severely damaged. They had been traveling in the Bosphorus. This is known as one of the busiest shipping lanes in the world, as more than 40,000 military, naval, and commercial vessels pass through this strait annually. Number 11. Tolunay Carrier. This incident also happened in the busy Bosphorus shipping lane. The bulk carrier Tolunay plowed through the Turkish Coast Guard boat SG-25 in Bosphorus back in 2016. The Tolunay hit the ship from the rear, spun it around, and kept going as the ship began to sink. The Tolunay was heading north at the time. The Coast Guard boat almost immediately capsized. The SG-25 sank underwater, with its bow sticking just above the water by the time it finally capsized. Tolunay was brought to anchor at Büyükdere, Bosphorus, for investigation. At the time, the vessel was en route from Casablanca, Morocco, to Odessa, Ukraine. Number 10. Stellar Banner. Back in 2020, the Stellar Banner ran aground approximately 60 miles off the coast of São Luís, Brazil. The ship had just departed Valponta de Madeira Maritime Terminal with more than 290,000 tons of iron ore bound for China. Once the ship ran aground, it developed a heavy starboard tilt into the water and began to take on severe flooding. Fortunately, all 20 crew members were subsequently evacuated in good condition. Officials were able to salvage the thousands of pounds of oil and iron ore from the ship before they had to deliberately scuttle the vessel. Scuttling is the process of purposefully sinking the ship. Video footage captured the sinking, which was pretty astounding given the size of the ship. Number 9. CSL Virginia and Ulysses. Back in 2019, the CSL Virginia was accidentally struck by another cargo vessel known as the Ulysses. The crash punched a massive hole in the side of the CSL. Crude oil immediately began spilling out into the ocean. For weeks, the oil washed up along beaches near Corsica, where crew had to work to continuously save whatever wildlife they could. The accident was largely blamed on the watch officer for the Ulysses, who was talking on his phone at the time of the accident. He had not noticed that the CSL Virginia had anchored in an unusual spot and was unprepared to redirect his ship. The accident cost millions of dollars in damage and took 5 entire days for crews working around the clock to separate the two ships. Number 8. Yogi. The $39 million mega yacht Yogi caught the attention of people around the world when it sank off the coast of Greece. Video footage shows Coast Guard officials rescuing passengers and crew as the ship is completely tilted on its side and is lashed by a raging storm. After a long investigation, authorities found that the ship's engine had overheated during the storm. A failure at the stern door began to let water in, which caused the boat to tilt over. Once the second engine failed due to water, the boat finally sank over the course of 5 hours. Number 7. Bulk carrier and cargo ship collide. Back in 2015, video footage showed 2 major cargo ships moving far too close to one another. Eventually, the inevitable happened. The first cargo ship gets too close from behind, and the ship in front veers right into its path. The two end up smashing right into the other ship. Horns blare as the rear-ended ship gets turned in front of it. The entire thing was extremely slow, but also extremely dangerous. Luckily, no one was injured, but the damage to each ship was intense. Number 6. Carnival Legend and Glory. 2 Carnival cruise ships seemed to face off near the coast of Mexico. Passengers were shocked when the Carnival Glory was attempting to dock, but ended up driving its bow straight into Carnival Legend. A massive hole was torn out of the back of the ship. Bad weather and high winds were mostly at fault, according to investigators. Fortunately, no one was seriously injured from the accident. Number 5. Cruise Ship Excellent. An ironic name for a major accident. Residents caught the cruise ship Excellent crashing into a major loading barge. A worker on the barge is caught fleeing as one of the huge cranes collapsed. The size of the man in comparison to the ship and crane just goes to show how huge this accident was. Not only that, but the collapsed crane immediately starts a massive fire. This accident was also blamed on stormy, rough waters. Number 4. Cargo ships collide. One cargo ship tries a tricky maneuver, moving far too close to another cargo ship. At first, the video appears to show the passing ship squeezed past all right, but then the back of the ship tailwinds a bit, and the lifeboats along the back of the boat get crushed before tumbling hundreds of feet down into the water. Luckily, no one was hurt from the accident. Number 3. Hassana Constitution. In 2014, video showed the 610 container ship Hassana Constitution veering off course and plowing to a stop just before the Hong Kong football field. The accident was blamed on loss of power and high winds. Number 2. Mole Comfort. Back in 2013, the Mole Comfort was on a trip between Singapore and Saudi Arabia. The massive weight of cargo was too much for the ship, and it began to buckle in the middle. Once the crew realized what was happening, they immediately called for help and were saved. Number 1. MV Rena. In 2011, the MV Rena, a cargo ship carrying tons of crude oil, ran aground off the coast of New Zealand. This resulted in the country's worst environmental and maritime disaster. Footage captured the ship listing heavily. The entire ship sank after tilting to the side. The crew and captain were sentenced to 7 months in prison for the accident. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any new content. This has been our breakdown of the 15 biggest ship collisions and mistakes caught on camera.